And welcome to Round the Rotary Podcast, and me, your host, J.P. Warren. And before we begin, I got to say that Round the Rotary Podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPC specializes in project engineering and well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. All right, guys, how y'all doing this morning?
Doing great, JP. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And in the studio today, we got Robert Butler and Ondrej Sestak. Right?
You got it.
I got it right. Both of them are co-founders of Redbone Resources. How are y'all doing today?
Oh, it's been a great day.
It's been a great day so far.
Interesting couple of months, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, especially now. So now they're talking about there's a potential vaccine that's about to hit the market. That's 90% effective that they're talking about.
Who's coming up with that?
I don't know. Pfizer or Johnson. One of them.
Johnson. Oh, okay.
You guys know we're a couple months behind Russia here on this, right? I mean,
Well, Russia's got everything figured out.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot to learn from Russia.
Since Sputnik 1, they're on to Sputnik 5 now.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that. So anyway, guys, well, let's kind of get this kicked off. Why don't you, before we get into kind of y'all's latest project, Redbone Resources, why don't you guys give a little background about yourselves and kind of where you're at, kind of where you came to be, and where you're at today. Rob, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I'm a geologist by training. Started my career with a company called Marathon Oil.
Marathon Oil, the small mom and pop shops, right?
Small mom and pop
Okay,
shop.
that's right.
I started working Haynesville, Deep Bossier, Anadarko Basin, Piceance Basin, and then they made a big acquisition, Hillcorp, and picked up 20 rigs.
So were you always interested in geology and rocks? And
No,
what kind of started that?
Oh, I think as most geologists, I've had an interesting path towards geology.
Go on.
It didn't start there. I originally got a degree. I went to college to play football.
Okay.
Originally, as a defensive end at McNeese, and I thought, I'll end up playing in the NFL. That didn't work out.
Naturally.
I thought for sure
Going straight to NFL.
So I got my degree and went to work in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
And I worked for the state for 5 years, of all things, the state of Louisiana, a little water quality crew. Met a geologist, and I'm like, man, this is kind of cool. I like this. I was actually studying dramatic literature at the time at LSU.
Dramatic literature.
Yeah. So
Was
I met my future wife, and she's like, do you really feel like the dramatic literature thing's gonna?
Well, so dramatic literature I know is usually text messages.
No,
from
no.
my wife when I'm in the doghouse.
Yeah, right.
There were fewer emojis involved at
what
that
was it?
point.
Agamemnon, and you're reading all that. Anyway, I met these guys, and I'm like, I kind of like this. The study of geology, the earth.
Right.
There's a timeline. It's not just tomorrow.
Oh, I get the fascination with
Yeah.
it.
So there was like a, man, this is cool romance to it, and old time. And I got my graduate degree, studied at USL, and a guy named Eric Cathan hired me to, I did an internship with them, and they hired me, and I'm like, well, yeah, sure, I'll take the job. And,
So you figured out that's kind of what you dug?
Yeah.
Unintended?
I don't think I really hit my stride until we got into the EagleFord, and then I started enjoying that, and it was new and fast-paced.
So you're at Marathon and Halcon.
Marathon, I went from Marathon, then I had a little crew I worked with at Intervest.
Okay.
And then 2016 hit. I made it through some tough times.
2016, you mean the bright times?
Well,
Currently, where we're at today.
I made it through 14, 15, and then 16, and I'm like, well, I don't know, said goodbye.
Right.
And then I started consulting. I worked for a small company called Battlecat.
Okay.
It was a pretty cool little shop. A guy named Mark Simelbeck and Kurt Von Plasky on the EagleFord. You could wear shorts to work on Friday.
Must be a nice little change from the big corporate structure that you were dealing with before.
Right, but my wife, she said, you can't wear shorts to work on Friday. I'm like, that's what you're doing. No. So we sold the Lone Star.
Okay.
And that's around that time. Went to Halcon. Worked for a guy, Scotty Tuttle. A lot of fun.
All right.
Drilling wells in Ward County. And then they went to Denver. I said, I might want to Denver. That's about the time I met Ondrej, working for Craig Davis over at Nexus.
Okay, so that's where y'all met. So when did y'all meet?
We were working, what was that, 3 years ago or so? 2017?
No, it was beginning of 2019, end of 2018, Marathon.
Well, we worked a marathon cell project, and Ondrej had come over from the luxurious Czech Republic and got stuck in Oklahoma, so hot trend, And,
as so many people have in the past.
Right, yeah.
That's a very common career path.
Exactly.
People from the Czech Republic to Oklahoma.
Not now, but 100 years ago. It's a good thing.
Exactly.
How did I get here?
Yeah.
And Ondrej was the first guy and only guy as an engineer that I always tell the private equity guys this. He said something about my maps. He actually complained about the color bars. I'm like, man, you actually looked at the maps. That's amazing.
So that's how you knew this guy listens.
This guy's special.
This guy actually pays attention to detail.
He does. He's raised by 2 geophysicists, so he's kind of a hybrid. I feel like he's a hybrid engineer, geophysicist.
All right. Okay. And before we kind of want to get into the kind of birth of Redbone Resources, I want to kind of talk about your background real quick, and then let's kind of get up to pace, and let's kind of talk about kind of how y'all came together as a team and kind of what's going on now. So, Ondrej, why don't you kind of lead us off a little bit?
Sure. So, I've been, I guess, in the oil and gas industry since almost day one. I mean, like Rob said, I'm born off 2 geophysicists, but originally from the Czechoslovakia, later Czech Republic, and so I've been blessed to live the expat lifestyle most of my life.
Okay.
Until eventually kind of ended up in Houston, which was, I thank the French for that, because my dad, he was about to take a job with CGG, which was a French geophysics company.
Okay.
And I like to say he kind of joined the French Foreign Legions of geophysics, because the French, they don't like to leave France. They don't like to go anywhere where you can't get fresh coffee and croissants in the morning.
I get it.
So, yeah, we got sent to all the, like the adage in the industry was like, well, this place sucks. Let's drill for oil.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we ended up, but to me it was amazing. First memories are from Egypt, kind of a desert. Then I lived in India for 2 years. That was also amazing.
So
then
a pretty cool childhood growing up and kind of.
Yeah.
So where'd you grow up? So Czech, Egypt.
Yeah, I left Czech when I was about 4,
Okay.
and then we had a couple of trips back and forth, but it was always kind of expat rotations. A year in Egypt, 2 years in India, 2 years in Oman, a year in France, and then eventually Houston.
So you're just kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
And so, when I moved to Houston and I was over here and deciding my kind of future path, after high school, I was like, well, it's Texas, so 2 options. It's going to be either cowboy or oil and gas.
Right.
So, and I think with oil and gas, I was hoping to kind of have that international career path and be able to maintain that traveling and just kind of I love the community. Having grown up in that, known the people and had that exposure.
So when did you move to Houston?
97. So it's been quite a while.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But honestly, even since 97, I've reflected on it. I've only been in Houston about half that time, right? So I went to Austin for undergrad, and then California for 2 years, Stanford, which was an amazing opportunity. I was like, what, you guys are gonna... This was in 2008, so it was kind of the first downturn.
So you went to UT?
Yep.
To get your undergrad in what?
Petroleum engineering.
Petroleum engineering, and then you went to Stanford for...
energy resource engineering.
Energy resource engineering.
Which is basically petroleum engineering, but it's California, so they can't call it that. They can't call it that now.
Petroleum is a bad word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the building was called the Green Building, which I don't think it was called green for green engineering. I think it was a guy called Green, but I'm sure that helped.
But you know what? That probably married perfectly with the agenda. It's like, well, let's do it. Green.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was an amazing blessing, because it was 2008.
So
when I graduated.
why did you pursue a master's?
Oh, 2008. This is the first downturn.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, what? You guys are going to pay me to go live in California for 2 years and get a degree from Stanford? It's like, oh, yeah, don't twist my arm too hard.
Who were you with at the time?
This was straight from undergrad.
Oh.
So I was actually studying abroad in Holland for the last semester. I was at Delft, and
There you go.
so I was kind of applying for the 2. And actually, I didn't graduate from UT, have the official ceremony, because the semester over in Europe was kind of offset.
Right.
So it ended, sometime end of June.
Right.
And by then, that's all wrapped up over here in Austin.
What, mid-May over here in Texas. Okay.
Exactly. But that's what I love about the oil and gas industry. Most of my exposure has been kind of domestically, but just the international nature of it, and it takes on such a different feel once you kind of go outside the borders of the U.S.
Oh, it's such a huge. I've done work. So I've studied in England when I was at A&M. I got my master's in France, and I lived in Saudi Arabia. And that's what's great about the oil and gas industry. Like, it doesn't matter where you go, across the globe and all stuff. There's always that common bond that you're going to have with people that that you're going to find there in the field or find there in the office or internationally. That just kind of have this common okay. Well, you kind of got this common banter moving forward. Yeah.
You know what kind of blew my mind was you think of A&M, it's oh yeah, those are the guys over there with the cows in the field, turning over manure or whatnot.
Right.
And then UT is like, oh, it's just like very forward, internet, like amazing university. But then you like look overseas and it's like, well, A&M is the one with the campuses, in Qatar and like all over the U.S. How many campuses do they have? Like 15?
There's a lot of international. There's a huge international presence of A&M. There's a lot of that and partnerships, like reciprocating schools. And all that stuff. Yeah.
So that was amazing. Like, good job, you agricultural guys over there in the field. Well done.
I had nothing to do with that, but thank you. I'll take no credit for that. So anyway, so you got your renewable energy, petroleum masters, whatever you want to call it, whatever they want to term it as, and then where'd you go?
So I started at Shell.
Okay.
Which that kind of backfired. I was planning to go like international tour and all that, and I get this job in California, amazing. I come back to Houston and I'm literally looking at my high school out of my office windows.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, back to the starting ground.
So that did not exactly work out as planned, but
You did have Addicts Reservoir on the other side of it.
yeah, I did. That was real great in was it 2017 with Harvey?
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was no longer in my backyard; it was in my house.
Oh, yeah.
Oceanfront property.
Yep, exactly. And so that was awesome, and I stayed with Shell until 2015.
Okay.
At which point, so I had to go back to the Czech Republic for some personal reasons.
Okay.
Which not a lot of oil and gas over in Czech Republic. We've got a grand total of 1 or 2 wells.
Really?
Oh yeah, we go for quality over quantity there. I mean, this
Okay.
is like pharmaceutical grade oil that we're producing
So
over
you
there.
can't stay over there. Not enough work to be had.
No.
Right.
But on the plus side, I mean, I was able to. So while I was there, I was able to kind of like reach out to the alumni network, which I think this is kind of like where I truly started appreciating kind of the benefits of networking, just like reaching out and making contacts, and just send some messages to a couple of the.
And what were these messages for? What? Trying to find work? Just expand your network?
Just
what?
expand my network and see what was going on, because
Okay.
I got there, I don't know what's going on, and not a lot of oil and gas industry, so it's kind of just completely unknown territory.
Right.
First of all, I've never really worked or lived in the Czech Republic. I mean, I've gone back to visit family and whatnot, but I've never
That's what I was
worked there in
saying.
a
They're
professional
long
capacity.
term. You're right.
Yeah. And so people are always just down to meet up for coffee and find out what's going on, and you never know what synergy there might be with their relationships.
Right.
So it never hurts to know more people. Luckily, one of the guys that I started working with was Mike Saran of Odeon Group, which I didn't realize this, and it's a private equity company or group in Prague, and it blew my mind because he and one of his business partners originally came there in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how much you know about Eastern Europe, but basically it was kind of the Wild West in the 90s after communism collapsed.
Right.
Everything got kind of, just basically private profits, public liability and losses and stuff like that. So all the public industries just basically got, torn apart, privatized. Everybody, if it wasn't bolted down, it was carried away kind of thing.
Thanks for the taking.
Yeah, so
Right.
by the end of the 90s, like the whole economy was just in upheaval and disarray and whatnot, and these guys were brought in there as kind of like outside consultants, like, well, can you please save our economy?
Okay, interesting.
So they went in there and they like restructured, refinanced, kind of like like the restructuring mechanics that we're used to in the West,
Right.
for when a company's in trouble, and they did that to the national industries. And so
When
they
the country's into trouble and stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which, I mean, it's a fairly small country, so, it's probably smaller than, Exxon or something like that. But still, bottom line is, they just took these private equities, brought in new investors, capital, refinanced the debts, give equity, buybacks and whatnot. So all the mechanisms that I'm just kind of getting familiar with. But I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize this. And it's like, wow, thank you for saving my country's economy. I really appreciate that. And since then, I mean, it's been skyrocketing. I mean, it's amazing over there. I mean, I think when I was there in 2018, we had like 1.5% unemployment rate.
Oh wow.
And it was just, going through the roof. And key thing, we have never adopted the euro, unlike our brethren over in Slovakia.
There we go. So that's the first time we talked about the Slovakians adopting the euro and Czech not on the Around the Rotary podcast.
Well, there you go.
Well, that's where we're breadth of knowledge. So you get back. I kind of want to kind of tie up to kind of where when y'all kind of teamed up and developed Redbone Resources, kind of what that company's all about, and kind of I guess kind of take us through kind of where it started and kind of guess the objective or the goals of Redbone Resources. Where did Redbone Resources come from?
That was a book that Miss McNichol read to me, Where the Red Fern Grows.
Okay.
And those 2 dogs were the Redbone Coonhounds.
There. Okay.
Yeah, so, they didn't, that was just the name and the start. And then I was talking to Ondrej, I'm like, man, you want to start what do you think of starting an oil company?
So where did this idea of just starting an oil company?
Well,
and first off, when did you start this oil company?
The idea started from a guy I met, Keith Murphy. and he was a enhanced oil recovery expert.
Okay.
Worked for Denbury, XTO, and others. He's kind of gone on, or he's taking a break. But I'm like, man, I kind of like that. And I'm like, oh, I kind of know somebody who's really smart that complains about my color bars.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm gonna give Ondrej a call because I'd known Ondrej from the Nexus and just thought sharp guy. And then we found out I'd worked with a landman. I'd just come off a job working the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale with Australis.
Okay.
And what do you guys think? Can we get this going? And just started talking to private equity.
So when was this?
So it was earlier this year, like March, something like that.
Maybe March when
April.
we first started.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I want to ask you. So like
Yeah.
you had this idea to start an oil company, right? In March during.
Oh yeah.
That's
March,
kind of where I'm going with this.
blowing it up.
March is when everything hit the fan. Things started shutting down.
I just come back from. I always tell people to. The hardest thing is in a storm to just remain calm.
Okay.
You're like in that boat and
Right.
everything else around it. My family had just come back from a trip in Kona, Hawaii, where just listening to the waves and relaxed. And so I was I hadn't really until I hit the ground in Houston, and it was like zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
I really didn't know what was going on.
Zombie / toilet paper apocalypse.
Yeah, right. And it's like, oh man, what the heck's going on? I can't get an Uber or a taxi or anything. But no, we hit the ground running, and
so I guess I have to give like a little background. That was like, so we started at Nexus, which was like what I started when I got back from Europe. It was like in 2018, not exactly a high point in the industry, right? Being out of it for 3 years, I was like, well, how do I get into this, or what do I do? And when you both, I knew Craig Davis. I've known him for about 20 years, and he was my old Scout master from the Boy Scout troop over here.
All right.
Just sending my resume. I was like, oh yeah, we can definitely use you. Come on board. Luckily, it was kind of like riding a bike, and so I was just thrown right into that initial marathon sell side deal where I started working with Rob initially. So this was like late 2018.
So that's how kind of y'all first started kind of working together and just started kind of learn about each other and establishing that relationship.
Right, and I met Craig, got my mentor from Marathon Air Cav, and he said, you need to go talk to Craig Davis in Nexus. I'm like, okay. And I showed up with I'd made a bubble point map of the Wolfcamp Shale.
Okay.
And he's like, oh man, I love this map. I integrated a lot of different maps and did a lot of calculations and all that. I said, man, I love this map. This is great.
Did you comment on the color scheme?
No. I just picked the geographics, random color bar, which I did. And then I tried to plot as many different layers on it to make it as confusing as possible.
So you were taking all this information from all these other different maps, the different industry tools, and different industry knowledge and stuff, and you're kind of compiling into this.
Well, yeah, and that had kind of come from I was working for Halcon, and my boss walked into the office and said, Floyd needs a map of pore pressure bubble point because I think the investors were at that time everybody was like, oh, Midland Basin Pioneer, they're in the bubble point of death. I'm like, oh yeah, sure, we'll make that map. So Devin had some pore pressure data, and he started doing the calculations, come up with a map, and then the investors are, oh, okay, we're good. Ward County is golden. But yeah, I made that map and took it to Craig, and he's like, yeah, let's do a deal. Signed the non-disclosure, and then Ondrej and I showed up in Grady County, Sohot, and Cleveland, Marshall.
So when was this?
This was the first thing we did, right? So that was
I'm a geologist, so I'm terrible with dates, right?
Okay.
Cretaceous, 65
Yeah.
years.
Oh, okay.
That was just yesterday, right? So 10 years yesterday.
Grand scheme of things.
I mean, if I can remember my birthday.
Well, no, I guess what I'm asking is this, is pretty much, it sounds like, Redbone Resources kind of came together and kind of, formulated kind of a team in March.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just kind of first off interested on kind of, on March, I guess kind of what your thought process was. Because obviously I'm assuming that this idea of this company, Redbone Resources, was kind of, happened before. There's some history to that, right? You don't just start something in March. I'm sure there was some legwork that y'all did before. And so I guess kind of, once everything kind of shut down, hit the fan, whatever you want to call it, in March, what was y'all's mindset about kind of continuing moving forward and kind of building this company that y'all have?
I think for me it was kind of the perfect opportunity because things got digital.
Okay.
In LinkedIn, like you guys, when we put the website together and everything, doing NAPE, we never would have been able to do that unless we'd been in a situation where it was more digital versus the traditional. That was my feeling. What's your feeling?
So I guess like regardless of what the external environment or conditions are, there's always things you have control over, like that you can do, right? Like, well, you can always do branding. You can build your website, do interesting things out there. You can always go out and research assets, do environment, or what were things that you might be interested in going for, and just going forward on the assumption of success or like making something happen. I guess it might be easy to kind of get bogged down and kind of like focus on the pessimistic things or the negative feeling out there, which
it's so easy to do these days.
And I made that mistake only once. Like when everything started, I listened to like 20 minutes of news like in the morning. Learned that lesson very quickly, and I had not gone back. So
did y'all ever come to that kind of like a decision point? Kind of, it's like, hey, look, like things are this bad. Oil's at -37 right now. I mean, either we're gonna have to decide what to do, or we're gonna have to kind of. I mean, did y'all ever come to that decision point? And if so, like what? Like,
I don't know if we'll ever come to that decision point because we're so good at. I think we're really good. Our talent is at bobbing and weaving and figuring out how to survive.
Adapting.
The two of us and the relationships we've made with Craig and like his fund.
So I don't know if it is because of COVID or just kind of the point we were at, but it seems kind of like since COVID, people have been so amenable to just building partnerships and seeing how we can do something together in a creative fashion.
So you're seeing more of an audience.
Not even an audience. I mean, so not a lot of this isn't even like necessarily through Redbone. Just people talking to those are before everything completely shut down. Going to like alumni events, just talking with people or like old business acquaintances.
I got to go to the Stanford event.
I would have suit and tied it up. Yeah, I would have got some like fake glasses. You know what I mean?
It was geologist. It was okay. It was kind of like
it was the geomechanics guy, Zobak.
Yep.
I would dust off that T83 plus. Try some extra wise.
It's like Rob brought his maps, to demonstrate.
Oops.
What class were you in? I'm very. Oh yeah, I had that professor too.
So it's been pretty. I mean, I guess it's been receptive to start networking right now and during these times because people are more receptive to kind of pick up the phone or take a Zoom meeting or have a conversation.
Definitely.
People want to talk.
Yeah, and I think people are kind of like recognizing, and I guess for me it's been, I guess it's been that like 2 years since I've been doing the consulting, is kind of that feeling of being in charge of your own destiny, and to be fair, like I don't really have any responsibilities in terms of like family or anything like that yet to kind of upkeep, and so for me it's like, well, I just gotta keep the lights on at the apartment, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And so for me it's like, it's more about where can I learn, what relationships do I want to develop, and just taking advantage of those opportunities. So I don't necessarily need to be making a paycheck every month and kind of that, and so the consulting has been really amenable to that, just to kind of keep the G&A going, so to speak, of my personal life. And then everything else is kind of just, well, I'll just see what happens and say so there's been a lot of, I guess, sweat equity is what they call it, through different ventures, and kind of, I guess I like to liken it kind of to the junior mining industry kind of thing, I mean, you might invest in 10 companies, 7 of them go belly up, 2 of them you might break even, and 1 of them you make it big, that kind of makes it worthwhile and everything. And yeah, I mean, it's perhaps like a bit more risky, but in some ways I think it's a little bit less risky because, again, you're in charge of your own destiny. You can decide what ventures you want to go on to, and the more irons you have in the fire, the more likely you are to succeed with any of that, rather than just, kind of with all your eggs being in one basket, in a company where your fate is kind of in the hands of some anonymous HR department.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to do.
different floor than yours,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So did y'all always kind of want to start run y'all's own company, or what? Was that mind shift with y'all?
My family, they all had their own businesses.
Okay.
Like Sears Roebuck store. My dad had that, and my uncle had the pressing shop, cleaning clothes.
Okay.
So it was, I think that maybe that entrepreneurial, stubborn, I'm going to do this on my own, type mentality.
Right.
They kind of lived in me, I guess.
So it's in your blood, kind of.
Maybe in my blood.
Do your own thing, start to run your own business, right? What about you? I mean, how was it for y'all? For you?
For me, it wasn't necessarily in my blood, but I think I was infected in California.
Okay.
So being kind of in that Silicon Valley environment with startups, that kind of like really got me excited about it. Also kind of started reading more about philosophy, like really fleshing out my worldview in that time, being in grad school, kind of rediscovering my passion for learning after being ground down by the undergraduate engineering program.
Well, it's a different learning, I guess, mindset when you're forced to learn for a test, or when it's kind of after, and it's like, okay, well, I'm kind of passionate about this, or I want to learn more about this.
Exactly.
Or self-motivated learning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you will.
And it's so much easier to learn under those conditions.
Oh, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
So how are you guys finding it right now? So right now, we're recording this in November right now. It's Q4. The election results were just kind of announced on. So how are you guys finding, I guess, handling the navigating through these, first off, our industry right now, and I guess meeting with people, going to data rooms and all that stuff. So what's y'all's experience right now that I guess that you're all feeling?
I mean, it's about really funding it. I mean, things are changing so drastically on so many different fronts. I mean, yeah, the operational side, everybody has to be working from home in that regard, and kind of the mobile working. On the business side, private equity's been burned so bad over the last 4 years, and banks have been, underwater for so long that they've kind of lost faith in the industry right now, despite kind of the strong fundamentals, that they're out there. And so I think it's going to be really tricky for the next 4 years, or for the next couple of years. I don't want to get to a specific number, but so that who can you convince about the foundation or fundamentals of the industry, and to kind of throw money into it. And often it's the people that can be a little bit more nimble, which often you find is kind of private money, family funds.
Okay.
So private equity, but not private equity, private capital.
Right.
And so I think that's the way the wind is blowing, and there's definitely people amenable like that. Maybe they've been looking to invest in the oil and gas industry for a couple of years, and just been waiting for the right opportunity. And guess what? Now is the right opportunity.
How are you identifying the private? What do you just call it?
Private capital.
How do you identify private capital right now during times like this?
So again, it comes down to the networking and people. So obviously
Something like this.
Yeah,
helps too.
I'm very much at the beginning of this journey, and so I don't really have those connections. I mean, I've kind of started developing them, but you don't really have a lot of groundwork laid. So there's not a lot of trust in that. For somebody just like, well, okay, we're going to throw $100 million your way or something.
Yeah, I
like
was
that.
going to say, how do you establish that? I mean, I guess that trust. I mean, coming to the table right now, obviously people are kind of very skittish right now to invest any money, whether it's their money or whether it's someone else's money right now.
But everybody wants to be an oil man.
Oh yeah.
It's man, this is cool.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
get into this. So you will find that, like I told you in the talk before, that we had an investor from Kentucky and other people, and that kind of comes about through website marketing, cold calling, just hustling.
Are you find what do you find to be the biggest success? Is it just kind of having your website out there, or is it actually kind of knocking on doors? Is it kind of doing stuff like this? What's kind of been the biggest bang for y'all's buck when it comes to getting your name out there?
The combination of the two, and Ondrej's design for the website.
Okay.
Got the dog, got all that. When people
the
see
logo and
the logo.
Yeah. But Rob has been really, really good about kind of just cold calling, or modern version of cold calling people, right? So like reaching out through LinkedIn and just really being very dogged in his pursuit of kind of these leads. And
people want to, I think, even people that are, the folks that have made it, they want to talk to the guys that are the up and comers that are they're out there hustling and trying to get something done, and then they want to, everybody's willing to talk to you.
Right.
We've had a lot of meetings, and people just kind of there to just mentor us, to tell us, oh, well, I like this, I don't like that.
And also kind of like realizing that you don't necessarily have to have those direct connections yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So it's leveraging the connections you do have that then you can maybe leverage beyond that. So it's almost, so I think a lot of the active iron fund, like the one that we're kind of thinking about teaming up with Rob over here right now, that's through Craig, and then he knew another guy that is connected well into the banking world, and they're very experienced, and they've been in the industry for 30, 40 years, and so they have that trust, they have that reputation. So maybe leveraging with them and teaming up with them to get that experience, to get tested and tried. So for us, I mean, Redbone, it's a long-term plan, right? So for us, this is kind of
we know it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, if we can find funding, right now, if we can find an asset, awesome. But we're both very young, like we're willing to play the long game. So if it means kind of like teaming up with these guys that have the connections to kind of establish our own reputation.
And that's the thing, leveraging connections is so. I mean, it's crucial, not just in your side of things, but I mean, even going down to whether it's remember in sales. If you know someone that I don't know, man, I'll tell you what, I'll buy your lunch next time you go out to lunch. Just let me crash it. I mean, that's kind of what that's what it's all about. So that is networking as well, in my opinion. So what challenges, I guess, are y'all being, is there kind of a theme of challenges, of constant industry challenges you are being faced with? I guess going out looking at deals or trying to raise capital or anything like that?
Deal size versus capital.
What do you mean?
Well, private equity wants a certain deal size, and then there's a certain deal size for sale, and those two don't always
It's an age-old dance,
line up.
You got moving pieces on both
Right.
sides, and
Right.
you're just trying to find you're the matchmaker, right?
Sweet spot.
Exactly. Like, you're trying to-
You are the matchmaker.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But then the more information you know on both sides, the better, right? So, yeah, like talking to private equity, I mean, yeah, you might get verbal agreements from one, but they might be looking for a certain asset in a certain area, or a certain size. So you go talk to 10 other private equity ventures, or people, or private equity, or private investors. And then eventually, you might, I've got a bunch of these different deals. Let's see how that lines up with the capital
Okay.
that we can
Yeah.
find over here on this side. And so the more you know, the more likely you are able to make that good match and come together and end up an operator, or heck, even if you don't end up being an operator and you can just kind of help people connect, that is rapport, that is reputation, that's kind
Oh,
of
I love that.
The
side of
the
business.
matchmaker.
Like if I can't handle it, I know someone that can, and I'm gonna put you in contact with them because you never know where that's gonna end up. I mean, that might benefit them, but also it might benefit you in a couple years.
Exactly.
Or a couple months. You never know. You never know. You're also just helping people out. So
yeah.
I mean, that could always come back and help y'all out.
Right.
And that is the most rewarding thing, I mean, just like not necessarily like keeping track, like, oh, well, like I provided you this favor here back then, or I provided you that, how much can I get paid for this, or
Right.
what's going to be my cut?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
You
that
start
is-
doing. Yeah, you start throwing it out like that, and it's kind of like.
Yeah. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, I don't want, JP, I don't want that introduction next time. Now it comes with all this stuff.
It's important to build your oil and gas karma,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 'cause what did we say before? Before we were talking about, before we started recording this, it's like, it's a personal brand. You know what I mean? It's yes, it's the company, it's also, but it's the people at that company. That matters a lot, right?
Mhm.
That comes along with a lot of goodwill, a lot of trust. And I think that's crucial these days to start building it up. And I think with social media platforms, LinkedIn, and meetings and podcasts, also people get to know who you are a little bit more
Mhm. Yeah.
versus just the name.
Yeah. And I think that since social media really came out, I mean, even undergrad, looking for a job, it's like, well, remember, clean up your, social media, like
Oh,
your
yeah.
LinkedIn profile, and make sure like how you portray yourself online, like have that personal brand and make sure you know what it is. Because, I mean, things get posted online, you go to some parties in undergrad that's
Yeah.
on there, and somebody Googles you and it's like, oh God, like what the heck is this person? That's all part of your brand, and you might not even know what it is. Like, take control of that.
I think you're right.
What image are you putting out there? And that's so vital nowadays. And in the day of COVID, more so than others, because people predominantly communicate through the internet, right? I mean, that's how you network, and so many people are reaching out, whether it be sales or people looking for jobs,
That's
or
right.
they feel uncertain, so that they want to finally start finding out, like, well, what else might there be out there for me, or who else can I connect with that might share similar interests, want to start a company, or are we going in the same direction? Do we have, the same paths? Like, well, let's see if there's some synergy to be had.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So are y'all enjoying this process so far?
Yeah. No, I am. I mean, and getting to meet like legends.
Yeah.
We got to do the Alan Gilmer, Scott Anderson, Nate talk, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Like, man, you guys want to talk to us? I mean, okay, yeah, let's do that. And sitting down with a guy named Dick Stoneburner and him kind of giving some, he was the guy that got the EagleFord started with Floyd Wilson. And you just see how people really want to help you and guide you. And it's not all doom and gloom, It's a lot of fun stuff going on.
A lot of people think it's all doom and gloom right now.
Yeah. We got to take Ondrej's advice and not no Fox News or CNN.
That's I'm the same way, man.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. And also staying calm during the storm, just what you said, Rob.
Yeah, you have to, when there's a storm like that, remaining calm and no, you don't have control over any of this.
No, you don't.
Um,
No, you just control kind of
Yeah.
who you, I guess you can control what's inside your house and the relationships you have with your friends and your business networks and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Other than that, like, it's all out of your control.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you have enough control that you can control what you do every day, right? Day to day, how you tackle it, make those opportunities, and just pursue the ones that that seem interesting to you. You find somebody who you have some rapport with, you enjoy grabbing a coffee or just having discussions with. Keep that relationship going. Like, see what you can do with it.
Yeah.
Is there a creative venture that you can embark on? That's been so rewarding.
So y'all doing anything kind of out of the box or anything like that when it comes to kind of getting out there and networking or trying to find funds or capital or anything like that? Are y'all kind of doing anything that you want to share?
Um,
Or what's your all's approach to, I guess, going after a deal?
Yeah,
So-
you have something you want to share on that one? I'm trying to think.
Well, I guess developing that reputation, not necessarily just, like I said, we take the longer term view, right? So whatever it means to kind of establish ourselves.
Okay.
We've had a couple that came from us, from some guys at big shops.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, hey. So you, just having friendships in the industry and
Yeah.
being a nice guy. Kind of trying to be like Craig Davis over to Nexus, you know.
So we had an opportunity to be on some of the technical advisory boards.
Right.
One of the ones was actually from the other consulting gig we've done in the past was for our energy partners, which was like they have a small gas field over in Uinta Basin, but the guy Umberto Sirven is really, really well connected and really, really smart guy, and so he has some connections in Mexico, kind of like south of the border.
Mhm.
You know, people wanting to diversify their investments over there and potentially invest in the U.S. So creating cash flow in dollars is extremely valuable over there. And so there's a couple of ventures through that, and not necessarily for Redbone Resources, but kind of like being in an advisory position, kind of getting our name out there.
Yeah.
When that venture works out, then there's going to be a lot more interest kind of from kind of the international.
So it's going to
funding
start
as
kind of gathering steam as it kind of goes along.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I mean, even though we're a domestic industry over in the U.S., there's so much international funding that comes from as well. I mean, the Chinese have been trying to get in here forever and buy up resources, and for better or for worse, it has happened.
You're kind of hearing more of that, like,
Yeah. And I mean, like Mexico, south of the border, I mean, they're our neighbors, I mean, there's been business going back and forth forever, so.
Right.
I don't see that seems to be the logical place to go, like, well, hey, if you're looking for somebody in, Pemex, God, well.
Kind of open up your lenses a little bit.
Enough said, like, well, Pemex is its own little situation.
Right.
So if they can invest in oil and gas and that is not Pemex, then why not tap into that capital source?
Yeah.
And it's right there, they're familiar with the industry. It's not like they're stepping into something that's completely unknown. Or even just Asia, not necessarily just China, but there's plenty of money over in Singapore or Indonesia projects, and just for me that makes me really excited.
That's interesting though, because you usually hear about people kind of focus on domestic, fundraiser, domestic markets, and the fact that y'all kind of have different, that y'all's lens is a little bit wider. His lens is a little.
It's Ondrej's.
We all are a team. There's no Ryan team now, is there?
That's right. Hitch my wagon to
Yep.
Ondrej.
Well, there is a V. No. I mean, it's just, I don't know if it was like my international kind of like background, right? Just kind of like, to me, that is my world. Like, I feel so comfortable, like, everywhere, and just because of the blessing of my upbringing, that it's no big deal, to go over to Europe. I mean, that's my home as much as over here, and kind of having that exposure to the venture capital gave me a little bit more confidence, talking over there. And I can't say, I've got any direct contacts other than, this one guy, but I see the potential there. It's like, why not? Like, just explore that path. You get nothing for that.
You know where that can take you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You never know where that one introduction where that can spin out to and lead.
Yeah.
You know what
Exactly.
I mean? So what else, guys? So what is I guess the objective of Redbone Resources? The overall objective. Who are y'all? What are y'all trying to communicate?
I said my dream was to have our logo on a downtown office.
Okay.
But then I didn't know if Ondrej would be riding his motorcycle downtown, or if he wanted to.
So we're still doing downtown now after COVID.
Well,
we're still doing downtown.
It's basically free real estate right now.
Actually, sadly, you're right.
Yeah. We did go look at some office space over in City Center.
Yeah.
That what was it, Ondrej? WeWork.
Yeah.
Which is the new downtown, or it's going to be the new downtown in a couple of years, apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently that city center area has been blowing up right now. A lot of oil and gas companies there, a lot of service companies there as well.
Yeah, and it's just down the road from my house, so that would be very nice.
Well, I guess like everybody's been moving to the suburbs, over the last decade and a half, and that trend has kind of started reversing before everybody wanted to kind of move back into town and the heights. As you guys well know, the townhouses that have been popping up, and now with COVID, something that's kind of like reversed again a little bit. Like everybody's trying to get out of
I want
town.
a pool. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's what I got in my backyard.
Yeah. That's a huge deal. I mean, dealing with COVID quarantine. So the name on the bill, and get your name out there. Nape shows and all these shows. Certainly getting to kind of be a recognized name.
A good reputation.
Right.
Good company. Enough production to pay salaries
Mm-hmm.
and survive and.
Being out there, kind of like being able to operate our own field. Like for me, I'm a reservoir engineer,
Right.
but I love like being out there, just actually looking at the hard assets, looking
Yeah.
at the wells, doing the workovers, and just kind of building something tangible. Like I don't know if you guys ever played with Legos, but I feel like most engineers kind of have started with that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, well, that's engineering 101, 1.0 right there. And then you kind of go from there, and it's just creating something out of nothing. And you know, yeah, I mean, the capital, you know, the paycheck is great and all that, and the vested interest is awesome, but it's really the act of creation that kind of.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to come once, I guess, once all the sweat equity or the effort and all
Yeah.
the network and all that stuff finally that's going to come to fruition and kind of pay off.
I think
Yeah.
so. Yes.
So you guys want to bring up anything else right now before we kind of close out that I forgot to bring up or anything like that?
What do you have, Ondrej?
I mean, I think we covered everything pretty well. I mean, you know, I think the very important thing is, you know, to kind of ground ourselves in kind of the fundamentals of our industry right now. I mean, I think we've got a lot of flack, especially, I guess, is Biden the president now? Is that where we're heading?
Apparently so. As of this morning, yes, he is.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, you know, I mean, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion, you know, kind of about the environment, the government, the social responsibility, green energy, renewable
Oil
energy.
field shutting down,
Oh,
whatever.
exactly, yeah.
Whatever.
And like, I don't want to say I'm an authority, but
Can you vote? Can you control that? No. So just keep doing what you need to do.
no, exactly, yeah. But I think it's also like on us to kind of communicate that, because you see so many of the majors, you know, jumping on board on that train, you know, like, oh yeah, we got solar, we got wind,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of playing that defensive game, you know. It's like, well, we're not really oil and gas, you know, we're an energy company. Look at our green things over here. Look at our green things over there, and that kind of like detracts, and they're not really standing up, you know, and like defending the industry and like, well, just how much good we are providing.
It kind of looks like a little, not shame, but it's kind of like don't focus on our core business.
Well, I mean, that's like not just the industry. I mean,
Sweeping it under the rug.
It seems like it's been the kind of like just shaming movement left and right. Like,
Oh, yeah.
people always find like, oh, I'm a victim of this, and shaming others for that, and that's just been the dynamic. And that's not a good place to be. That's not a growth mindset, you know?
You know what? That's kind of been something that's kind of been a focal point kind of on this podcast is the fact that, you know, we need to be advocates about our industry. I mean, we do such a poor job of communicating who we are as an industry and who we are as a people, as a company, personalities in the industry and all that stuff. We fight things with facts. Like, oh, well, this has a less footprint than this, or this has this. It's like, that's not going to win over anyone's hearts and minds.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Fighting
Yeah.
with emotion versus fighting with fact.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at anything, whether it's politics or whether it's, if you like Chick-fil-A better than we got, it's all emotion. You know what I mean? I think we need to be discussing, yes, the facts are important, but be more advocates of, don't shy away from who we are as an industry.
And most people aren't educated about the facts, and they can't be. I mean, most people are busy living their lives, trying to provide for their families and like live day to day, and like whatever their jobs are. And then you get home and you kind of want to relax a little bit. You're not going to go on there and research an industry that's completely irrelevant to you, other than what you put in your car, on the way to work. And like I think right now it's been tackled on a fairly high level, right? It's like, oh, climate change, global warming, CO2, this and that. So that's like the highest level that's relevant, really, without delving into the minutia. And so I think maybe if we take that higher perspective from our industry as well, it's like, well, it's thanks to cheap energy that we can feed 8 billion people on the planet now. It's that, why, environmental deaths have plummeted despite, like the narrative, that, well, the climate change and everybody's going to be dying in the next, decades or so. I mean, the fact is, there's a tiny fraction, like 95%, I mean, I read that book, The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, and that's kind of very much in line of my own understanding of things that I've observed and encountered, right? I agree that the good that oil and petroleum has done and will continue to do is incalculable. I mean, we could not have the standard of life we have now. I mean, not even the standard. We probably couldn't even have the life period, right? Just because
Was it food or trucking or Amazon?
Something like Houston would be completely out of the scope of possibilities without hydrocarbons, right? I mean, like, where do you think all this food comes from? Where do you think well, good luck in Houston without air conditioning. Good luck without all the levees and drainage systems and housing and all this stuff just takes cheap energy. It would be completely unviable otherwise. And even if you bring into power electricity, for that, I mean, you're not going to be able to replace that and kind of like the heavy machinery or like the 18-wheelers and all those kind of things. And even if you could, I mean, the groundwork you have to lay, right? Just like the power grid right now, it's like 50, 60, 70 years old. Like, there's no way you can handle, like 50,000 charging stations or whatever Biden's pitch was. Like, good luck. Rolling blackouts in California, except nationwide.
Yeah, let's be realistic.
But
that's not. Yeah, that's the thing. You have to be realistic. I'm not anti-renewables. I'm not renewable. But at the same time, it has to make sense. And let's be logical about it and rational about it versus this whole campaign that's being kind of thrown against the oil and gas industry as a whole. And that's kind of where we stand right now. So I agree. I mean, you brought up some points too. It's like, there's more to it than just kind of charging stations and stuff like that.
Right.
It's a whole way of life. And, I think people need to understand that. I would hate to have people test people out with that. You know, like, okay, well, let's just see what it looks like for a month.
Right, right.
You don't want to do that. You don't be the bully. You don't be the bullies in the industry.
Turn it
so,
off. Yeah.
But rather than just being defensive, like just put out the good things as well, right? Like don't defend against the points that they're trying to make. Just be like, look,
You have to write
this
your
is
narrative.
this is the good that we've provided. Like these are the awesome things that we facilitate.
And honestly, and I agree, and then, you know, those commercials about, you know, putting up houses and all that stuff, that's all great and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, that's an added thing that we do as an industry. That's the community work we do in the industry. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
There's a whole another 90% of kind of the benefits that we do to the kind of the world. So I think that's kind of, besides building the homes, you know what I mean, or building the schools, which is great. I love it, but I think there needs to be more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say everybody needs the opportunity to be part of an oil boom, just to see what it brings to, you know, like when EagleFord took off, to see what it brings to a community. And
I just want one more boom.
yeah,
We'll get it right this time.
Yeah, that's
I feel
it.
like I'm a little young to say this, but I just want one more boom. I'm waiting for 10 years for this one boom. That's happening.
It's been a bit lukewarm, right? I mean, we've had like 2 downturns and like a little breath of air there.
But yeah, it's like you know, you expected that roller coaster, right? It's more like the kid side, you know,
Right.
like, you know, 6 years or below, these are the dips. So
Well, we've gone on that like big drop, and now we're kind of like in the little circles and the loops that they had at the bottom.
just waiting
Yeah.
for things to pick up. Well, guys, anyway, I appreciate y'all coming in. Everyone, this is Rob Butler and Ondrej Sestak of the co-founder of Redbone Resources. You can check them out on LinkedIn or check out their website. And when we post this, you can kind of go and visit them. And if you'd like to talk to them and meet with them, feel free to connect with them. You can find their personal information. Just send them a message on LinkedIn.
That's great. Yeah, we're www.redboneresources.com. That's our website.
Easy to remember, everyone.
And it's got our got the email and the phone number.
Yeah, just if you want to have a cup of coffee with these guys, just kind of see what they've been doing or who they're talking to, and just kind of catch up a little bit more, feel free to. And guys, thanks for coming in. I wish you all the best. I wish Redbone Resources the best, and look, I want to see where that goes.
Thanks, JP.
All
Thanks
right,
for having
guys.
us.
Y'all have a
Appreciate
good
it.
one.